have a problem, Lazarus. I have a big problem. But you was here, kind of tempo, when you can't go back last week. Boys guys only put up more man. Can't be that busy. And not the chiga. Kuramba. Kuramba. This is how to know them can't walk. I said bullying it. So much of Malos can do that here of the chi. Boys run with Takata stay in a bullying society. Remember since I saw it, man. Help me out, man. Help me out.
Guys, right, welcome to yet another episode of the Brothers with Voices. And guys, we are here for real talk, and sometimes we have to, have these difficult conversations, right? But hey, today we have a very special guest, right? Her name is Ngonidzashe Mpofu, Miss Ngonidzashe Mpofu.
Hey,
she's a clinical... Hey!
What up, Ngoni?
How you doing, Ngoni?
What it do?
Welcome.
And you know what? She's a clinical rehabilitation and mental health counselor, right? And she also has this workplace well-being and disability services where she's also in consultancy.
Mm-hmm.
And guys, she is about to complete a PhD in mental health.
Yo, Papa. Come on. Come on.
Come on.
Come on.
Right, so
representing was Zimbabweans, yeah.
Bring it home. Bring it home.
You have to.
Much respect. Much respect.
Much respect. So the reason why we have Ngonidzashe today is because we want to talk about bullying as a topic today. So we want to kind of dissect bullying from the start to finish, right? But the first question I have for you, Ngoni, is what is bullying, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what is really behind the act of that, that inhuman behavior? Like, what's behind that?
Okay, so that is a huge question already. I think I'll start with the first part, which is what is bullying? You can have an entire lecture on what causes it. You see what I mean? So bullying, I guess, to sort of frame the discussion, I'll be using the definition of intentional, repeated, aggressive behavior that's meant to hurt someone, injure someone, or make them very uncomfortable.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
You see, the definition sounds so simple, but it's deep.
Yeah.
When you throw in the words, when you throw in the word intentionally, it's like, yo, okay. All right.
How about that?
Yeah.
But when does it start though? When does it start? So I don't think I can just be like me now, 29, and I can just start being a bully.
Yeah.
When does it start?
Actually, it can start as early as 2. By the time you see it in primary school or wherever, it's already been happening. It starts as early as 2. And if you were to get into personality disorders, for one who are into clinical, and I won't get into it for this conversation, I think it'll be too wide a scope. But for those who are in therapy and are interested in it, like that sort of, sometimes you can develop that sort of antisocial behavior that's locked in by about 4, right? And so then usually if you see that locked in by 4, you can almost predict trajectory going towards prison, right? Or conflict with the law, or things like that. So that this means these behaviors start super early, not just
my question
grade 6 or grade 2. Yeah.
I'm so sorry, Ngoni, to cut you off. 2 and 4.
Yeah.
2 and 4. Bully.
There's a future arrest coming up here.
Yeah, but
if you don't intervene in a big way.
But what do you do? How do you intervene at 2? Like a kid can hardly talk. How do you intervene at 2?
I feel like we're like ahead. How about we like lay the groundwork first so people can kind of catch up to how you end up there.
All right, because in that shock.
Because I wanna know, bro. The exact same question. Like, I wanna know what she's talking about. Like, how do you know? Like,
bro. Is it kuti mwana ari kuchema, right? Mwana ari kuchema and akuziya kuti akachema mai vake vanomubata saka akabatwa nomvanyarara. Is that bullying?
No, the thing is, no, that's I call it manipulation, right? So like you're working your mom. No, not all manipulation is bad, right? No, it's a survival thing. So it's good that you brought that up, because bullying stems from an instinct. So it's not just a learned behavior. There's actually something instinctual about bullying. But I guess as we have the conversation over the coming hour, we'll be able to parse out what that looks like and how that instinct develops, or how it mutates, because it's actually a condition of thinking. You don't just, so you're saying at 29, I won't become a bully. You could, given the right circumstances, become a bully.
Okay. And from, you mentioned 2, right? I've got a question for you, and then maybe you can address it to the guys, right?
Yeah.
Right. So can we describe it as a mental, like is it a psychological thing, or maybe it's hereditary, or since it's a 2, right? Like I don't think so is it hereditary or
Yeah. No, it's both. It's like that debate of nature versus nurture, and that's something that even as I'm doing my doctoral studies, I've been trying to beat out a bit, like bang out a bit, spread out a little bit. And I find that nature and nurture, like yin and yang, they need each other. They coexist. It's not one or the other. So you may have a child and a certain personality propensity. That means if you don't manage certain behavior patterns in that child, they're probably going to exhibit bullying behaviors. And then you have those children that have a personality propensity, some traits that feature activity, they attract bullying behavior.
Oh, I see.
Right? So nature abhors equality. And I know I can hear all the feminists crying right now. I can hear it. Like nature abhors equality.
It hates
there's a hierarchy that's inherent in nature.
Yeah, okay.
Right? So that's why, because it's funny how we love to quote the animal kingdom, except when it comes to hierarchies. Right? And the reason the animal kingdom functions is that our popoti who's in charge. There's an understanding.
Tell them.
And if you want to become in charge, there's an understanding as to how that's also accomplished.
Yes.
Right? So when you have people like within that context where it's like you want to bring in equality in an environment where you're designed, I'm designed, nature is designed for boss subservient. Not to say the roles can't switch, but it must exist like that.
Okay.
That's the closest we can get to equality, to functional. Someone must be in charge and someone must be willing to listen.
For example, Will and Jada.
Will and Jada, I don't know about them, Mary. I don't know how to.
We all know who's in charge there. We all know who's in charge there.
Like that guy.
I'm just like trying to hey, look. I'm just trying to find out. Like I'm trying to find a good example to work that is, that's worldwide, not picking. Not
paraffin and soro, my sorobi.
Okay. That works. Let's take it home.
Paraffin and my sorobi. Because the interesting thing is for my soro, because remember paraffin was really hot like in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
So odds are kutirora take paraffin had to go kumusha kumzimai and so by going kumusha mkazi wacho had to be receptive to being taken as a bride. And so by the time this marriage, because I can't help but psychoanalyze that show, because then you can't help but notice that my soro is now in charge in paraffin arukubawa most of the time. So there was a point when she got married where she was receptive to his leadership because he showed up for her.
Yeah.
And she said yes. But then during the course of the marriage, she took over that role and he became subservient to her. So now we see paraffin philandering around. And if you look at the women in philanders, where they tend to be submissive sorts, who are shocked by my Sorobi's aggressiveness when she comes in and says, yeah. And the women are like, cool. What? Huh? You know what I mean? So he finds it somewhere else. So it's really that sort of thing. And the beautiful thing about it, again, because it's instinct, and I might get a little too complex here, I hope not, but I can't help but talk about the structure of the brain as well when you're talking about bullying. Because there's like higher orders of brain development. The most basic is your animal instinct. You need to eat and procreate, safety, But then there's that limbic system. Dopamine experience your emotions, not just feelings, your emotions. And think about emotions as being moved to do something. You're in motion to something. Something set you off and moved you to something. right? Nokunova bullying behavior, but it's also the same center for addictions.
Okay.
Now think about it as Baba Sorobi. In the dynamic of the bullying relationship they have. So I'll stop there for
yo.
for a moment.
Bruh, information overload, Mnara.
I have not been in a lecture. I haven't been in class in several years now, guys. So you need to understand that this whole thing, you wouldn't see those terms again. You're like, okay, this is deep, and she's actually very right about that.
Very.
I just wanted to comment on the part where you're saying there's the subservient and the boss. Like,
yeah.
I think that really actually does resonate in the whole society, whereby bullying is not only whereby or anything. It's actually societal, whereby you find that even when you go, for example, to a nightclub, for example, there's gonna be the guys who did. They're just gonna be there, and everybody's just gonna be like, yeah, we ain't going to talk to them. Staying in their lane. They get bullied there. They can't get servers, whatever the case, because the big boss are trying to get servers and stuff like that. So I really do understand that concept. Society does actually have those societal hierarchies.
Because even if you think about feminism, what is it? It's an assertion for control. It's not actually equality in the purest sense. It's women saying, I want to be in charge now.
Because after they say that, they say women are future. After women are future.
Right.
Women are the future.
Far back as Jurassic Park. And I was watching it just for like a Jurassic Park sort of week. If you go back to the very first one in 1993, right, when they were talking about chaos theory, this guy said men creates dinosaurs, right? Ian, the one who was in charge of chaos theory, he's like, God creates men, men kills God, men creates dinosaurs. Then the girl said, dinosaurs eat men, and women inherit the earth. Right?
Wow.
So it was 1993, as far back as that, our brains were being soaked in this ideology, this way of thinking that says women should be in charge, and that somehow the world is better if women are in charge. But when you talk about bullying, the bullying they're against is more of the physical bullying. No, I never romantic, but women have their own form of bullying that can actually be worse in some ways.
True.
Right?
I want to get into that. I actually want to talk about that as well.
Ma'am, I want to talk about that. Ma'am,
for a second,
ma'am,
Yes.
women bully us, ma'am. It's not fair, ma'am. You know what? But I think we've gotten to a point where I hate to say it, or my assumption of the whole thing is that we've gotten to a point where almost like if you take Black Lives Matter, right? What's going on right now? Black Lives Matter. Where if you see a white woman, that story of what's her name? I forgot her name. The white woman who called the cops and said, if I call the cops, you're going to jail.
Oh yeah. They're calling every woman like that a Karen. I think the ones.
Yes, Karen. Yes,
Karen.
That was Karen.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
I feel like there's a not to take anything away from feminist and gender equality, but I feel like there's a lot of that is possibly coming into things. Like, if I just call Ningi and say Ndaroa, whether it's true or false, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It definitely happens and it's trash. But I'm saying there's now an element of, I know if I call and say this has happened, I will have backing. That's
I wouldn't actually call that bullying. No,
I think it's
I wouldn't
bullying,
call it. As a therapist, I wouldn't call it bullying.
What would you
I
call
would
it?
actually call it a subservient person confident enough that she can evoke a protector to come and take care of you.
Okay. But
the bully is the one with the protecting instinct. No, like not in that way. The bully is the one with the protecting instinct. When we're framing it in terms of aggression,
all right,
she wasn't aggressing. She was threatening you with a stronger aggressor.
I see. So that's not bullying.
So she's saying, if I call you black, I know if I tell this person that you're black, they're gonna have a certain thing about them that will come to save me.
I see. Okay,
which is why if little people are not there now, which is why they have big people backing them up.
All right, school. So
I wouldn't call that person a bully. I'd call the person they're calling a bully. That one is manipulative.
Okay.
But I wouldn't call it a bully.
All right, I buy into that.
With the same context, Chris was on the page sit up. In high school, right? In high school, in Form 1, I was bullied. Because
Don't say
she-
names. Don't say
Sha,
names.
also,
no names.
I don't
No names.
appreciate this
Bullied.
topic talk. I don't appreciate that, bro.
I don't know. No connect. Like, but okay. Now, panic context.
Okay.
Ndakabhuliwa nemunhu akapfupi kandidi nandakareba ndiri form 1 ndakabhuliwa yokuti ukabhuliwa uri wega ndidi unokwanisa hamazi, right? But because this guy was standing next to the biggest bully in the school,
right? I think I remember this. I remember this day.
He was standing next to the biggest bully in the school. This guy didn't even say anything. He was just standing there. He was listening, but he was standing there. So is that bullying, or it's exactly what you just mentioned now, that he's evoking this authority that's there because
is he friends with the biggest bully?
Yeah, they were friends. They were in the same class, actually. I remember they were in the same class, same stream, both Vanguard and Form 4 at that time. Actually, played out because it was a situation whereby nobody now could intervene, because now the biggest bully in the school is standing in front of us, in front of Kudzi, and is like, he's just standing, he wasn't doing anything. But then this small cat knew Kudzi, if Kudzi was to say no or to react, and don't forget, Kudzi was actually tall and scary. Like, honestly, that's a fact, right? And he was in a situation where he But then my point is that, like, he couldn't actually react, and if he had reacted, the bigger guy was definitely going to get involved. We could see Tezo with, oh man, this is about to go down.
That's an instinct. That's an instinct of a bully. It's a big bully creating other little bullies, right? Because even in bullying, there's a hierarchy. There's some who do it with finesse. You know what I mean? They're exceptional at bullying.
There are people who actually are experts
at bullying.
The professional bullying.
Not all bullies are created equal. No, that one is the bully.
All bullies matter. When they have meetings, they do all bullies matter.
All bullies. No bullies matter unless all bullies matter. No,
exactly.
I've got a question on the school bullying one though. Like, okay, I don't want to say I was a bully in high school. I don't think I was. But there are people who I bullied. I won't lie. Actually, a person who I bullied is one of my closest friends now. So this is where my question is. My question is on where do you cross the line between there's panikamika banter kakujairirana katinoita where obviously because I was a bigger guy, you know, so obviously I'm gonna invoke that instinct type vibe, right? Yes, that's
right.
But we're homies, but there's a hierarchy there as well, right? So where do you draw the line between bullying and just like banter, like just hide that?
Okay, so like we're bantering might go a little too far, but you're still not.
I'm not a bully, but if I say Iwe Shamari,
I wouldn't put the judgment over being a bully on the bully, because they probably don't think they're bullying you. Some of them think they're helping you.
Oh.
Right? I would actually put that on the victim. You decide to what level you're bullied.
I see.
But sometimes there's power structures that are in place, right? That's when I can start looking at like power structures, like if someone has a gun, it might be a good idea to just be quiet, right? Okay. And if you can't defend yourself, unless you can defend yourself, then it'll still equalize, right? But it's a thing where the victim decides, because sometimes banter is banter, and someone banter realizes that you don't protect yourself very much. Okay. So then you'll keep pushing the envelope a little bit, where you were able to say, "Oh no, I wasn't bantering." Like you were able to say, "I'm bullying" at a point. Like this is actually not bullying.
Okay.
Yeah, Chris.
So it's on the victim. I see. That makes sense.
Like raising your hand.
Yeah, no, we're in class now. Class is in session.
We're in class today. Today we're in class. Today this is a whole class session. So my question is, I want to take you back. Like I think to jump a couple of points, because I want to take you back to the 2-year-old and the 4-year-old, right?
Yeah.
I think one of our episodes was primarily about how a person actually turns out to be a bully because of things that surround him. Like for example, a child who experiences his family fighting. It happens also, guys. So is it a thing now that, you know, by the time he gets to like 4 years old, because he's experienced that, is it how it is imprinted in their brain, so that by the time I get to primary school, I'm in grade 1 now, I'm thinking, it's normal. Does that then actually teach me more in terms of bullying? Does it really
Catalyze.
Exactly, catalyze my bullying instinct, which is naturally the whole instinct. There has to be a boss and a subservient. That was the boss, or subservient, you should be chill. Like how do the dynamics play out as a kid growing up and experiencing such type of behaviors in your family?
Okay, so I'm going to be a little bit controversial here with regards to that.
Yeah, we like
growing up in an abusive family doesn't mean you become an abuser. Just like the people saying, you know, spanking children isn't good, but there's an interesting timeouts are better. But we're dealing with someone else called this the timeout generation, and look where we are. Cities are on fire.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So there's a balance to both. So one end is that just growing up in an abusive house doesn't mean you'll become an abuser. But this is why I said nurture also matters, because I'm a big fan of Bronfenbrenner's theory. And one of the things he said was, you not only experience the world, but the world is experiencing you.
Okay.
Right? So the child is acting on people just like he or she's being acted upon.
What in the theory?
So, Bronfenbrenner, that's his name. Bronfenbrenner, theory of human development, lifespan theory. But it's something where that's how you can have children who grow up in what should be fundamentally loving houses, but still end up terrorizing people.
Okay.
Right?
Wow.
So growing up in an abusive house does not mean you become an abuser. Just like being bullied does not mean you become a bully, or being bullied does not mean you grow up bitter and hating people. Most people are just fine over time. Eventually they self-regulate. There are those outliers that come up a certain way, which is why you can pinpoint bullies. You can say uyo na uyo na uyo, but in your office, if people were to tell you their histories, you wouldn't know you were sitting next to a former bully.
True.
Because they adjusted and regulated over time. And so environment might teach you modality. You might have a propensity. This one, like genetics may play a factor too. Like if your dad is a strong aggressor, and I'll say dads because usually it's the men, right? Is a strong aggressor and you have his genes, right? Half of that genetic code, right? You may have a propensity towards taking responsibility for people you witness vulnerability in. But as your 2- and 4-year-old is none of them modeled for you how to properly manage that protectorate behavior. Because the protector's behavior, it's a kick in when you sense vulnerability. Now, what you're being now taught in the house. So inwardly, you're a protector. Now let's bring it to the house. Now this protector is in a house where no one's taught them how to regulate themselves. Auntie, ukana vulnerability, you attack it like a snake. It's not like they just watch for a weakness. So an animal watches for a weakness and then it strikes.
Yeah.
Right? So when you see that in 2- and 4-year-olds, they're manifesting that behavior where they have a sense of heat-seeking missiles that sense vulnerability, but no one is teaching them how to take care of the person that's vulnerable. Okay. So when you have a baby in the house, like when you bring in a baby in the house, if you're a smart parent, you always prep the oldest kid for the coming baby. Because you know, even without going to college, you know, pacheta politics in this house. Between 2 children, and one is extremely vulnerable.
My firstborn, what would tell what about my first
in my firstborn, you find that in firstborns, because my firstborns don't want crown when they never wanted to.
My firstborn boy. Talking to you, Tunga.
So you find it in firstborns for sure. You find it in firstborn. You can share my firstborn is because my firstborn watch is sort of weak, but trust and believe. Again, nature abhors a vacuum. Pana Acheta rise to the top amongst the siblings who may be younger, but I need that take charge.
Yeah.
Sort of.
What I was gonna test it in. It was like if you take my family, my sister's a leader, my brother's a leader. I want to be in charge, you know. So like all 3 of us are out there, but amongst us, maybe it's just one who's gonna.
But I'll bet you, when you get in the car, only one of you is driving.
No, actually,
actually, you're all leaders. If you're all leaders, you're all leaders.
Didn't driver goes driver motor driver.
But you see, how do you mean you were subservient? Even in your driving, someone instructed you to do it.
Yeah, God damn it! I'm leaving. it.
You got your lesson. You got your lesson today, bro.
Man. Actually, you know what?
You got yours.
I actually make it a point to like, because yes, I get you. I am definitely the subservient one because I'm the lighty. Because I want to ask about that inculturation of bullying. Is it bullying or is it because in my family, it's Mukomatunga, Sisitari. This was instilled in me when I was a kid. I know it doesn't happen often. It doesn't happen often now. Exactly. It was instilled. Is that? I don't know if that's bullying. Again, I'm always wanting to see where do you cross these lines and where does it make sense and where is it inappropriate. And me being a victim, I never wanted to say Mukoma, but it was forced upon me, and now it's normal.
Right. Can I? Sorry, before you answer, Bati, I want to add more to the question, right? So that it becomes
It's the last board. It's the last board.
It's the last board.
I feel like I need a notepad to write this stuff down. I got my notepad.
Right.
Like,
as a
if you didn't know, we got issues, dog. We got issues.
We are dealing with issues out here.
We got issues.
Problems are about to be solved in 1 hour. I don't think so. This is like a 17-hour conversation.
This is the aim.
Right.
This is the aim.
So to add on to Bati's question, right? My question is this: is it also, do we consider it bullying if your brother Bula or your older sister Bula could simbise? You remember, but last episode you were talking about
exactly.
Your dad or your brother used to hit you in the abs to make you stronger.
Yeah.
Do we constitute it as bullying because they have that mentality with Mpanongo seems weak? Let me try and make him stronger. Like I've had experiences that with my brother, whereby they used to do things to me. I'm not gonna say them, but then they used to do things to me so that because they thought, no, seriously, it was bad. Hey, look, I'm the youngest.
Yeah,
so I had to go through a lot of things. Like you see how big I am. I was a fat kid, so I had to go through things to get this body that I have now, right? So you find that I thought my brothers always used to say, you know, you have to be a man. You can't be a fat kid or whatever the case may be.
Right.
A particular body size or whatever type of situation. So
Right.
is that some sort of thing? When they did so, learn to protect yourself? Do we constitute that as bullying?
Okay, so it goes right back to the definition I mentioned at the beginning.
Okay.
Right, and bullying being defined as repeated, intentional, aggressive behavior intended to injure or cause great discomfort.
Okay.
Now, what makes it different then is your brothers were doing it, but you were not necessarily thinking I'm being harmed here. Maybe underlying all of that is care, and which is why you take it lightly and you still can go on after it's over, right? But what they're doing is they're using bullying techniques. It's someone with a protector instinct, right? That's using their ability to know, I could do this. I could show you how to be a proper bully. Not everyone could instruct you on how to handle bullies because no one can model bullying behavior. So if people that knew how to model bullying behavior, trying to build almost like a vaccine, your immunity to it. Because remember, one of the previous questions was, well, what's the line, right, between bantering and bullying? And I'm like, actually, the victim decides.
Yeah.
That's why your brothers didn't say, okay, no, the best favor they did for you was teach you how to deal with it, right? Build an immunity and a response. So it could even be just like as easy as learning to laugh at yourself and not taking everything too seriously. Knowing just like on one of you guys' feedback shows, there's no such thing as ask. Someone will talk about you. Really? And as long as you can just live with that, you'll be fine. If you take offense at every instance, it's like pouring gasoline to a burning fire, which is why you never tell a bully you're hurting my feelings. Like, it's the most nonsensical thing I've ever heard. Like, when you hear my teachers, as well intentioned as they are.
Confront your bully. Tell him.
I need to come on, I'll be like, Iwe.
Whack him.
And one good one. I'm telling you, because
True. My dad
I really am a big believer in that. When they're like, oh, you're a good parent, Amy. Like, you're not protecting my kid. My kid needs to know how to protect themselves. And I'm like, if the bully comes, even if they're bigger than you, may not have much effect, but nothing like some bite back here. Because this is not someone who takes it lying down.
Yeah. I've got a story on
like your son was beating someone who recess. Yeah. So I believe my discipline in that house to be very different, unless it's a repeated behavior of aggression. If someone is bullying my child,
yeah. Because when I was in nursery school, Kingfisher, my dad gave me a strict rule when I was a kid was ukarowa unodzorera, aungo cheme unodzorera, right? So then one of these fine days, I don't know who I had bullied or I was bullied and I hit back to one of the kids. And then the teachers weren't allowed to hit us at the time. And she hit me. And then I hit her back. And I continued to hit her. And I hit her and I hit her and I kicked her, right? Then the next, when my dad came to pick me up, the teacher was like, right? And then my dad is like, manga mamuita say, because my son is not a bully, but he's reactionary. If you hit him, I told him, if you are hit, you hit back. So immediately he knew could teach angaita say angandirova. So is it okay to teach your kids that, or like protect themselves, or are you creating a bully?
The follow-up question to that is, did they hit you again after that?
They didn't, because no Kia was
Eat your.
Yeah.
Which then comes to the point that after you go.
No, so let's find another way to discipline you, because they knew, even the teachers adjusted to you. Like, remember, now I love classical literature, but one of the key features of books like Oliver Twist and Jane Eyre, stories like that, it's usually Munu Ari so bogged down, where the teachers are so vile and cruel, right? You'll see the place is inhabitable. Then what you see in rich kids, which is what I think some people find abhorrent in rich kids, is rich kids, I have no attitude. Yeah, you can say that about anything, because they have a confidence and a certain, I'm expected, this is my space. What do you mean? You're trying to impose your ideas in my space. So you adjust to them, and that's what makes them so frustrating. But the trick to having power then is you have to be willing to have people not like you when you assert power. But at least you create an environment where you can thrive and also survive it.
Okay. So you're not a bully. You're just.
You need to be dangerous. I always tell you need to be just a little bit dangerous. People must know you're just a little bit dangerous.
Okay.
Now you can have that danger under control. But if you're gonna survive it, thrive it, they need to know non-starter. And I think it will tie really well into like Zimbabwean culture too, and how it creates bullies and the bullied.
Perfect. Now that brings me to my next thing. So a bully is definitely a coward, and once you stand up to a bully, no,
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. No. Don't put those words in my mouth. I never said it.
Deny him, Dada.
Okay. But let's move from here.
Because that's how you get gangs, man. I don't think you can confront a gang. Sometimes you need to know when someone is more dangerous than you. Okay. The scenario, just
shut Ongolosh up and just shut the Ongolosh.
Shut the Ongolosh up, man.
Go with it.
So let's move from that young man to Endaku adolescence, what we go through. I want to know something. Is peer pressure part of bullying, right? So peer pressure, Christopher Vadondaro, Chamario, Ugaseswatatuga, Awakadawe, Ugasamadoroga, Wakadako. But so don't did can then I'll probably end up doing it because she and Dr. Philology in the found decided either. Then is peer pressure part of bullying, or Jagatungo Siana it's like completely different?
I think it's different in a way, because the reason Munacha Achiku Zaka, for you to hear it, you have to be in that person's circle. It means Wamushara, because you knew they were stronger than you. So now when that stronger person starts asking you to do tattoos, no mramba say, and do that protection yake. Just like that person.
Jeez. Yeah. Also, I get how we can't all be the same. We can't all be the aggressors. We can't all be. There's always going to be. At what point do you accept Kuti? I will see alpha.
You're not the boss of this.
That is actually a very good question.
Because how do you accept it? And
How do you know?
And even if you know, how do you accept it? Because if you
No, say
going
it
back to
again,
what
because
you're
I heard
saying,
two people at the same time. I completely missed.
so how do you accept that you are not the alpha? Like if we go back to the animal kingdom, right? Like the examples that you were using, at some point in time, a new alpha will emerge and will take out the old.
Oh yeah, they'll try. They'll always try. Yeah.
And they'll always try. At what point do you accept kuti alright apa nyarara basi, just keep quiet? You know, at what point do you accept that? Because I ndinondinetsa mdara and ndinorema panosara kaundu.
No, the thing is, bundu nacho not vuma though. No, because here's the thing, you know when someone is above. I remember I was watching this one. I have a lot of YouTube figures I follow that I enjoy following because they're funny but also really intellectual. And I'm not going to name the show, but this person, Kai, he's a big dude. He's a big dude. And you think he's fat if you were to look at like shirt sizes, but no, it's just pure brawn.
Yo.
You know what I mean? Those people with those storky bodies. But so anga chide no anome so Muslim so anga go yeah.
Oh,
This. So yeah, okay, so I'm here. And he was completely calm. And jamuka. And then I remember looking at that and saying, even now I can tell this is beyond your weight class. You know your weight class. Kuchirochim threaten and say you know your weight class, and this man is above your weight class. So we know nothing is going to happen here.
Wait, hold on. See, yeah, you're right.
Why are you guys bulking up? Because you know there's power to.
Exactly.
No, I disagree.
Wait, no, I agree completely.
Okay, so it's just to feel good, wellness, and
no. It's not I don't think it's a wellness thing. I think men's particular ego. If you don't knock me out, Uruguay is this big 7-foot dude, and you don't knock me out, there's still gonna be a problem. I'm gonna still stand my ground, right?
Yeah.
Knock me out, then I will accept what I do, and you are alpha. But I will not like. I don't think I want to be bullied to that level. And then I don't. But you the one.
And inini manje ndokukiya manje because kwandozokuita manje and iwo zvandozokuita manje. If someone like what Chris is saying, if someone bigger than me, that has happened to me a lot of times, where someone is bigger than you, so they'll think kuti iwe bozi ndakasimba kukupfuura iwe ndowasanga kudhonza nzeve nekuruma shamari ende panopera fight.
What to your boss tomorrow? Because the weight class was an example. Tomorrow, go to your boss and tell him what you think of him.
Ooh. This is exactly what she's saying. You know.
Yeah.
You always know who's there.
It's because you know your context. Can I have a back it? And maybe that's where you stand up, but your boss.
Now your boss, Maya.
Well, now you know, Kuti, this is above my weight class, my pay grade, whatever you call it, it's above my something. And if it's messing with my money, it's messing with my whatever. Basana will go tell their bosses, I don't know, you know. That what boss? Variko. And that sounds like you need to know when certain people are more dangerous than you. Yeah, and sometimes, and the reason I put it that generally, is especially because Zimbabwe, where mental health is still terribly new, unfortunately, in some ways. You have to put it that generally, because sometimes you're dealing with someone with a mental health condition that makes them slightly off. You're not going to reason with this. You can't reason with this. You're just going to have to back off. I got to, hey, Chris, hey, Basi, do you want to ride this bike? What's it, but it's my bike.
But it's my bike.
Let me think. You will let the bike go. There's no new one. There's sometimes where you just need to know when someone is more dangerous than you, and that's what your fathers teach you.
Doctor.
Your father, especially as a boy child, your father is that authority, no kudzika misa. Yes. Which is why you feel disrespected by your father, but you shut up and take it.
Yeah, but then that becomes not just a bullying situation. I think does it not become
hierarchy,
like authoritative bullying, and just for example, you can't
now.
But there's an element of bullying in that.
I want to get to that, but
bullying
on a
is
different.
Separate from that. It's actually a divorce of something. That's why it looks so similar. It's not that bullying is a different entity. It's something separate, something else. But I guess we can talk about that later. Yeah.
We're talking about workplace. You're an expert in this. That's why I'm so itching to talk about it now. In Zimbabwe right now, I know of a couple of companies, right, that you have to be hired if you're female.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Then you're gonna do this, or I have to promote you,
right?
Right? Is that bullying or not? And sakanindo bvumaire because ndoziva saka munhu yachanibabasa ari pamberi pangu ari pamusoro pangu, and saka should I come to that point of accepting that because ari pamusoro pangu, because right now as I speak it's happening.
Yes.
And
it's very real. It's very I'll say this, it's disgusting. It's very disgusting. And in some cultures it's so encouraged. My professors with students for grades. Sometimes, I'm not saying it's the norm, but sometimes it's that. Whether your GPA is ruined, your academic careers are ruined, your career prospects are ruined because of someone else's abusive behavior, right? So bullying, I think this is why I'm like, definitions are important, because not all negative behavior is called bullying. That's why you have different terms like sexual harassment, abuse, and certain things like that, right? We have domestic violence, but you can be a bully person who does that. You have there's so many variations from which you can discuss this. So let's say, boss, I know if you want this job, you're gonna have to sleep with me, right? That's sexual harassment. But what makes that a little different is that you have the option to leave. It may not be desirable, but it's still an option. So you're weighing my pros and cons here on something that's incredibly unfair.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? Of which you can also get justice system. Justice is to tip the scales back. This is how much you perverted the system. And so if you sue this person, this is how it's supposed to be corrected.
I see.
It's not supposed to make you better than you were before. You don't become the boss all of a sudden because you were sexually harassed. They have to find a way to report financial settlements. They're trying to say this is how we're equating quality financially. They're not trying to make you better than you were before. Right. So when you watch those TV shows, which I love court cases, people are saying, I want $5,000, judge, what to defend. This is $1,500. Explain the other $3,500. For my court cases. I just feel like, no, that's not how it works. That's not how justice system works. Offense for offense, I must respond to the offense. If you can prove it, I'll give a judgment that's equal to what happened, not how you think you want it to happen. Bullying is another form of control. But this one is meant, like I said, to injure or to make you incredibly uncomfortable. Now, bullying will happen, it's repeated. So let's say wakushandra boss watch. And now it's not just request for sex. Now office is embarrassing you in front of your peers, is doing all these things. That's bullying.
Okay.
But someone now know you're in office for an interview and they said you want the job, do this for me. Get up, get out.
But it's a process, eh? It's a process.
It must occur over repeatedly.
Okay. So Awanabasa, it's gonna definitely happen like that. But then this boss has got 5 other girls varikuita the same thing. The same way, right?
But I bet you Muskana who doesn't feel bullied. It's working for her.
Of course.
You see what I mean?
This is why it's an individual and it's the victims. It's the victims' reaction. Okay.
You see what I mean? So
bullying. If I feel like I'm being bullied, I'm being bullied. But if Chris is in the same situation, doesn't feel bullied, he's not being bullied. He's
not being bullied at all because Chris probably went. You see what I mean? So their relationship is different. You or you did the crazy thing where the teacher said, "Tell the bully how you feel." It's like a hit missile. Like you're basically giving this bully clues on what works for you.
Okay.
You see what I mean? It's not that don't let them see you bleed. Don't let them see you. It's literally that you're trying to fight. Remember, Beth, it's an instinct. We all have it. The instinct to usurp another, take advantage of a vulnerability. And I don't care to know natural muscanari humble say matter 3 times a day. That one is like a hit-seeking missile to the right people too. Maybe her poison is condemning people in my Bible verses.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
True. No, I mean,
I hate those things that go. I hate those items, man. And if you don't share this, you're going to hell. Hey, bruh. Hey, don't come at me. Hey, don't come at me with that.
Gatekeeper away heaven and hell, guys.
Message you don't touch up in nenga. This one goes to go for
okay, Tainda workplace. Because this thing is broad.
All right.
This thing is broad, guys. We'll spend the whole day talking about this. So I'm going to workplace.
All right.
Tabaku workplace. Tada umbopinda o muzimba. So I've traveled to like this. I've traveled to Gweru at some point, and in Blazo, so okay, and then Blazo chanogara kumba kwacho ikoko. Takashika around 11 p.m. in the Sadzanira biko kudara nditi, but iye Sadzarno biko kana iye ashika. Patien. Like aiwa vanhu vese vanokwanisa kudya zvavo.
Nanditi rake iye.
Iye rake ka robikwa kana iye ashika.
Yeah.
Anditi.
That's power.
Saka akasvika na 12 midnight ka. Rofanira kuti wazafanira kuti chigari chibuda tuhutizo harisiri microwave.
It's steam. The microwave is not a hard shell. Yeah.
When I grow up, I want to be like you. When I grow up, one day I'll grow up.
So tell me something. How does that work? How does that work? You bullying, power.
Yeah, that one is straight bullying. Unless it's a loving relationship and the person doing the cooking doesn't mind doing it for you because it's an action of love.
Again, it's the
right?
victim. I see.
So where it's coming from, because Munarku Bikira has assumed the subservient role. So that's why I was like, it's important to tease out bullying is not a separate entity. It's a person with instincts to notice vulnerabilities in others and do something about them that hasn't developed the regulatory behavior in a way with a sense of responsibility or caring for the people you're managing. Okay. So you're like a born manager. But if you are not taught the responsibility, with great power comes great responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like just show her you like her, you love her, and she'll be happy to do that for you. Or you can still get that same hot sads, which you took a man, or painting the walls red with them. Mm-hmm. You see what I mean? So it's the same instinct without sans regulation.
Okay, so that is the solution. Like, I was actually going to get into that. Okay, I'm a bully.
Yeah.
I'm a bully. What is then? What's the solution? Like, how do you fix me? Like, how do we get to a point where I have control of these emoting these emotions that I have? How do you get to a point where it's like, no, I'm not a bully. I have control of my emotions. I have control of my bullying. How do you get to that point?
I have a control of my bullying. But
like my bullying is within. It's within. Yeah.
I know the feeling. Like I'd answer that two ways.
I'm not a bully, by the way.
You might be. You might. The thing is, you are maybe a certain decision away from being one.
Ooh, I can't wait.
But I would answer that two ways, and I would say the way you manage it. Like, I know people are not a fan of Freud, but I don't believe in throwing out the baby with the bathwater. He was speaking to his era when people complain about Freud, and those that do know what it is, right? So part of this psychodynamic theory, even with Carl Jung, addressing your shadow. Lower than your emotion, that limbic system is your basal system. Yeah, brainstem, chayo. This is your instinct to survive, eat, procreate. And there's a part of you that's so basic. Yeah, I think we call it petty. Like when I'm being petty, or I just feel like being petty, or I just feel angry. I feel like being able to acknowledge that you have darker elements to you. If you can first acknowledge them, then you can integrate them healthier. Don't pretend you're a saint 24/7. You're not. You're evil. Sometimes you're a genius at being evil. No one is a better defender or creative. I'm street smart. Until I touch you, wrong. When it comes to lying for your case, you become genius.
Yeah.
You become very
Everyone
creative.
is the geniuses
Very, very
defending
creative.
why they did what they did.
Stories. Genius.
You know? So there's that component. Like, acknowledge your shadow, acknowledge those dark elements. And then the second part is, at least for me, I love working with adolescents. I know I'm not teenagers, but I love them because they're basically like pure limbic system. I start to develop at those higher orders, thinking like prefrontal cortex, judgment, and all that is not fully developed. So remember, when I was telling you, my addictions, marijuana starts showing up around that time. You know, the talking back. But even you as men, if you ever want to be fathers, you know in the back of your head, before you even have children, because I'm coma and there'll come a point where you have to be like, Iwe. You know what I mean? You know it's coming. Yeah. And you're literally, so when you think about marriage, you're thinking about all these things, right? So when I'm working with teenagers, one of the things that works
is
saying
that. Thank you for saying that. When it comes to marriage, you think about these things.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No pressure, Chris.
No pressure. No. Apana pressure, Zaribu. Apana. I'm just saying thank you for saying that. I appreciate her saying.
Hey, I ain't trying to.
Maybe people
not name a single mother, Ngoni.
No, let me finish his point though about how they deal with it. So in terms of like working with teenagers, the reason I brought them up is because they're so run by emotions. They move. Okay. But when they test you like that, why are you? Everything is a trigger of some fashion unless you teach them to regulate. And remember, by the time you're a teenager, you're 2, 3, 4. And your parents were not managing it. But teacher and don't manage. If you can't manage one, how can your teacher manage 26? Yeah. So for the ones that worked for me, when I find that the bullying subsides, I don't try to teach them methods on sensitivity because I'm giving them tools on how to notice weakness. They're already bullies. You don't give a bully more tools on how to notice more people. Okay. What I do is I tell them, Kutichi, put them in touch with their own feelings. Because two key things are happening. I'm not saying these are the only two things, but remember, Tati, nature and nurture. If something is happening in you, something is happening around you. I have to become the most stable adult they have. Meaning I have to be willing to take the scars that come with someone building trust. And then once that trust is established, they can now open up and they become more in touch with their own feelings and are now able to empathize with the next person. Okay. So I'm not telling that next person, I'm telling you, bully wacho. You have a great sense of responsibility here, which is how I find my bullies end up being protectors of the bullied. You see what I mean? They have mind shift. They didn't change in personality. They just changed the use of their weaponry.
So you can't take it away from them.
Because the personality, you're just injecting my regulation, generally, or lack of upbringing.
Okay.
You see what I mean? They weren't exposed to it. I'm sorry. So, but that I think is, I was trying to answer that question. You see, how do you address it? Get them in touch?
I get it.
I don't know, because I think was saying something. Chris was going to say something. I don't know.
Chris.
My question, dog. My question.
Okay, so my question is, I'm going to take you back because you brought up the 2-year-old and the 4-year-old again, right? Yeah. Then you brought up parents as well in regards to that, right? Yes. So now my question is plain and simple. You saying, so how does a parent notice the bullying tendencies in the kid, right? Because we want to talk solutions as well, right? Yeah. As a parent, so instead of throwing that kid against the wall, instead of throwing that kid against the wall, right? How then do I pick on the little things? What are the like signs? Maybe if you can give us maybe 2 or 3 signs. They won't know going this way.
Simple scenario. Jar of cookies or candy. Kids love sugar by instinct. I mean, it's simple. It gives a nice little high. What order that jar of cookies or candy? What's up? I'm sort of finish. You see what I mean? That's a 2-year-old. Yeah. They're challenging you. They may not have the vocabulary. Say, how dare you put the candy? It's 2. It's a tantrum. You know, and then he was somebody, okay, all right. The kid just ruled you.
Damn.
That's a bully. The kid is running you. If your child is running you, discipline
You're being
that's a
bullied.
bully, or you're raising a bully. Some people call it independence, but the fundamentals of nature is of hierarchy, meaning there's a dependent. Auntie,
Okay.
if all our children are being raised to be bosses and
Imbalance.
nature are bores,
Equality.
this is what happens, auntie. So you're raising your kids to all be alpha males, alpha females. Auntie. And for them to be alpha, it means you are taking an option to step back for them to assert their power. I've never seen a parent from whom a child exerted power without the parent stepping back for the power to express itself. Now, if you do it too much,
Can you repeat that sentence? Repeat that sentence, please. Come again. Bring it back. Bring it back. You cannot expect your parent to come on, Papa. You receive.
Hey, please.
Hey.
Teacher.
Hey.
Let me give that cookie jar analogy. You know, the easiest tool, one sentence I can give a parent, I'm trying to make it simple, just like I'm saying no when someone is more dangerous than you without giving you a list of diagnoses. Chingozi out to you dangerous and back off. With a parent, raise a child people will actually like. If most people don't like your child, you're raising a bully.
No problem.
Terrorist.
But I'm raising my kid to be a winner. Like
terrorist. You may call it champ. Remember that people become geniuses to justify why they do what they do. I see terrorist.
Arabs.
I can't say that.
You can't. Sorry, you can't say it.
I can't say that. I'm sorry, I can't say that.
Arab guys go. One day.
I don't know.
Like my shower, you know, like we were informed to my shower, like my shower essay embodying like a essay.
Yes,
and that morning zero.
I'm Arab.
Zakanzina Enzo. Zvakudati mafia kuita chitsaga. I'm a mafia.
Guys, we've got time here. Net time here, Duga. We've got two things to talk about, and then we close.
All right. Yeah, because we've been going. Yeah.
We've got that dynamic, Ngoni, that we've got separated families, right? You do what you do with your girl, and then you probably decide not to stay together. So then, wana baby mama, and then baby mama uko, and I don't know that relationship, na baby mama, but you just co-parenting. Right. But it's funny that bullying behavior, you kuti nini ndikafuna nchida kona mwana wangu. Yo vuandra mbidza utara ni mwana wangu yo pangoda mwana yo pangoda mari saka and yo does something and you just want something, and then I'm far away from, and ngashiki notura mwana wangu nichisimba, you know what I mean? I can't, right? So how do we address that, right? Because a lot of men are suffering from this. That saka yo unonzi ndo fonera baby mama ndo, hey, how you doing? Uri boy re bo mwana ari kupi numbro mona sandu zvafonera izvozvo kada kuna mwana wangu.
Yeah.
Saka anofonera izvozvo akarara autara naye akarara. Like, how do we address that?
Yeah, I know that one. I have to tread softly because now you're conjuring the family therapist in me, and families are like individuals. So just like we're talking about dynamic here, bully and the individual, a family is, imagine one person, one unit sharing the same skin, right? So like apparently this thing called like emotional skin, I think is how what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. The father of family therapy. I can't think of his name right now. But I'm sure I'll later. But he he was basically asserting that a family exists under an emotional skin. The resiliency of it, your ability to withstand certain pressures as a unit, and it speaks to your thickness or thinness of skin. And so now when you're dealing with baby mamas, let's say you were together, because they were at one point you thought you were going to work, and then you separated. For that separation to occur, a lot of dynamics happened. So it's not just about konama, there's a lot around it. This is when I'm like, bullying isn't a unitrack thing. Antika, maybe you're a bum. You're supposed to come pick up your kid every Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday when the kids are sleeping. What's wrong with you, right? Okay. Or you may have a situation where the mom is using the children to control the man. So I never assume one at fault or the other.
Okay.
So it's usually a combination of both parents being petty in some way, which is why a judge now, someone who's indifferent to your relationship, has to now tell you both what to do. And now, if what you're asking her to do deviates from the court judgment, the court will side with her.
I see.
Baona.
Yeah.
So which is why they are saying, can I talk separate her amicably? The thing about mediation sometimes is to try to say, at least we care about our kids. Once you go to a judge, I'm not saying the judge doesn't care, but that emotional attachment isn't there.
Gone, yeah.
You're a separate entity. And it's not you. Kanayako roster file vara onto the next one. Right? So, but sometimes that's what is needed, those clear delineations. Because if the court is in it, you can go to the judge, but if that's not what's happening and the judge won't side with you, then I have to ask you then, what are you doing that deviates from the judgment? Because I can't trust your emotion, the thing that moved you. Yeah.
Doc. Sorry, got it, Doc.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Doc in the making.
We're speaking
in the making. But then, just to add on to what you're saying, I'm gonna make this more of a question rather than a statement, right? So that we can make it clear and understandable, right?
Yeah.
Is it a thing you could, or rather, no, that's not how I'm supposed to start that. But basically, I feel like parents nowadays, the reason why they fight now is because, for example, as a father, for example, I would want my kid raised by the mother the way I want, right? And the inverse, right? Which means that the wife wants the kid raised how she wants by me. So at the end of the day, it becomes that's how they end up probably fighting and bullying each other with because what she's expecting of me in terms of raising the kid is not what I'm doing. Right. So at the end of the day, I feel like that's when, again, we go back to the boss and the subservient. The one has to now then go down and accept and say, look, fine, let's do it your way. And the one also could either is going to be a ball player or the kid is going to be a musician because of what the other parent wants. Is that like, is that what you're trying to explain with the parent system thing or whatever? Right.
So by separation, because he asked about separation. So by separation, I'm assuming matopara now already. So you're now two separate individuals with a person in common or people in common. And so let's talk about your point then, where you're still together living under her one house before separation, Yashikari. Right. Like I said, nature abhors this, and you're right, it abhors this. But the unique thing about relationships, though, especially if you're trying to be in a partnership with a marriage, and I'll try to bring it back down levels, is this can happen together, playing on each other's strengths and covering each other's weaknesses. The woman is not always right. The man is not always wrong. Antika. So it's allowing yourself to be cared for. But if you come from culture Zimbabwe,
exactly.
It means this pane almost like you're sealed into one position. But then when that could buy better, not your woman is your helpmate, she's supposed to also contribute here. There's a conflict, which is why I find when you hate the Bible, except when they quote the verses they like Jesus turned water into wine. I'm like, yeah, one time. One time.
How do we know? How do we know it was one time?
How do we know it was one?
That's the only one.
No, he did it many times.
Jesus was the party starter, man.
Come on, no.
Party starter.
No, come on. Why you don't attack my best?
Because I could
Take it back.
No,
withdraw.
No, because if you think about it, like, anyway, that I can twist it how I want to twist it. Right?
Corona.
No, I share
Corona. This is pre-corona.
No, but the thing is, you can now cite one up Boaz. People always like, hey, Boaz. Like women talk about Boaz a lot. I want my Boaz. Because Boaz was plastered drunk. Like if you really notice in Bible, macho Ruth he was drunk.
When I grow up,
And you women praying for this husband because so if your husband's an alcoholic, don't be surprised.
Hey.
But anyway, I know that Boaz.
We digress.
Got what you prayed for.
We're trying to lighten up a tough topic here.
Thank you, Ngoni. Thank you for telling them. Thank you for telling them. Thank you.
You want Boaz?
I don't know if we should be thanking you because
but
last question though.
To your point of in the relationship, right? Of one is doing better. You need to allow yourself to be cared for and to care for. That's the only way you can form a partnership, right? The I could describe as a lack of trust. And this is what I'll put on the men, for instance, especially talking about the Zimbabwean, if you're talking about patriarchal systems. And people are like, the patriarchy. I don't think the patriarchy is a problem. It's a natural order of things. You see it in nature. The abuse of a system is not the measure by which you measure the system itself. Patriarchy, its abuse is not patriarchy. There's an abuse of patriarchy, then there's patriarchy. Right? Which means men have a natural instinct to protect their kids. And if I feel unsafe, women
and children first.
Right? Yeah, the Titanic is mostly men who drown. When things like this happen, it's mostly men who die in war. It's mostly men who go to prison. It's mostly men who do these high-risk, dangerous things.
But Ngoni, Mama, I didn't say dear.
I know, but that was for comfort. So a good example, I love illustrations. I don't know if you guys have seen Jurassic World, the last one, Fallen Kingdom.
Yeah, so
Fallen Kingdom, when the dinosaurs were dispersed into the world and that girl was cloned and whatnot. I hope I didn't ruin for anyone. But I
haven't watched it now. I mean,
they created an Indoraptor. And what you're describing is the function of and they were like, what's wrong with this Indoraptor? It's not ready to sell. This is a great animal. We need to auction this thing out. It's like the reason they needed that Velociraptor carrying Kakia, specifically Blue, is because Blue had a caring nature. When Blue saw vulnerability, and he would nibble. Are you okay? I think she's a Dutch or Duke, whatever it is.
Come on, guys. Come
on. But the Indoraptor, what the creator of the dinosaur said, he's like, the issue with this animal is it needs a mother. Mothers regulate that aggressive personality. So you're running towards comfort and you're also learning to receive comfort.
Not protection per se.
Men who don't know how to do that. You're not expecting your mom to protect you, Sha. That pound for pound, men are just bigger. They are stronger, they are faster. Pound for pound. Yeah. And it's a fact, and I don't care what woman says what, unless you are lying to yourself. For no matter how, the weakest man you find is still stronger than a weaker woman. For every weak man you find is a weaker woman. For every strong woman you find is a stronger man. Like I remember my kids, I'm like, that's a dude. Biology, man. Biology is real.
Mem casta anyway, that's
Last question.
Yeah, true.
Thank you very much. You know what? It's an honor to have you today because we talk about this every day, and it's good to have that perspective. Yeah, professional, right?
True.
We have talked about the 2-year-old as an adolescent, to youth, to family, to workplace. Ngati mbudzokera tongopedzera pa social media saka pane yakundi cyberbullying ona
come on, you have to open this kind of worms, bro.
No, we have to, bro. Real talk, bro. Real talk.
Yeah.
Because ndikatanga nayo taipedza show nayo ona saka topedza nayo, but we just want to have a chat about this for 5 minutes.
Right.
there's this whole thing on social media. I go live, I say shit about this person, I say shit about this person, I say shit about this person. That person comes as well. I say shit about this. I've never seen any dramatic item like Zimbabweans going live and tuning their thumbs out. And these are actually our influence. These are the social influencers actually. Something. How do we kind of stop that whole thing? We don't name people here on the show, but as a country, how do we stop that? Because we are too because they are relevant. For them to be famous, the fanakun mention us that then I was about to get into character. Anyways, whatever. I'm gonna say something about this person. How do we stop that though? And we don't want to talk about where it comes from. But
Nah, that's a different dynamic. I think that's different.
Different. Okay.
Here's the thing. What you're proposing, I think, is more dangerous than what they're doing. And I'll tell you why. This is my perspective on how I view the world. So obviously, not all therapists are created equal. You shop for a therapist you like that works for you.
Yeah. All therapists matter.
Yeah. But what you're proposing is to neuter a protectorate behavior. And there's nothing so useless as a weak person who can't protect you. The world is more dangerous. Isn't it that, I forget the Latin expression, if you want to have peace, prepare for war.
Okay.
So there you have to allow for the natural dynamic for combativeness. And sometimes I'm not trying to put on media, not on our own media, but maybe they don't hate each other in real life. That's a potential scenario where for some people, that's why movies are great, because you get to experience things that are not socially acceptable, like aggression. And that's why my action movies can be so attractive. You don't get to just go shoot people in the street, but you get to think, how would I do it? Like in Inangu for me, self-disclosure. Sometimes when I watch like mob bosses, I'm like, man, if this happened, then this was my soldier, and I'm going to say. And then it's getting in touch with your darker elements.
Yeah.
Because if you cannot admit how evil you are, it's your core. I know what all empty slates, I'm sorry. Science does not back that empty slate nonsense up. It's a nice theory, but it's not, because children will start working you. At 6 months, Mana will start working you. You. How do they know? I know Chemang, nothing. I'm not sure that you shit. No food, no diaper. You're already being manipulated by someone who's only been on earth for 6 months.
True.
And so when you talk about like cyberbullying, when it's back and forth banter, I might say, but they're giving and taking to each other. And for some people, following it is how they get to also vent, which is why this show is fun, because you're talking about things some people don't feel like they're allowed to talk about.
Oh, this show is fun. Oh my gosh.
This show is fun. Did you just say that?
Oh my gosh. Oh my jeez, bro. What? I never.
I can't.
And
my heart is fluttering. Oh God.
You're literally dealing with like topics some people can't say freely, but they can put in their headphones. Mama or who might not allow her to say certain things or think certain things, but the earphones are in and they're able to listen and learn that way. That's why it's not always about getting monotherapy office. Sometimes it's just showing them a YouTube link to something or informing them some other way. So with cyberbullying would mean, let's say Munuacho victim yacho is under attack and they can't really give it back. Girls do that very well. So people talking about, the world run by women. I'm like, I'm going to run. Because I've only seen a world where women, when they're really being catty, it takes testosterone to calm that stuff down. Just like when there's too much testosterone in a room, estrogen calms that down.
I see. We
attack in very different ways, right? So cyberbullying, women are usually good with words. Oh, she's so ugly. Oh my gosh, she's so fat. Oh my gosh, she's so this. When people take pictures and filters, they're using filters because other women are probably going to dog them. Men are fairly simple. Are you relatively, are you within range?
Do you have ongology? We're ongology.
Entanglement.
That's really why I do. Female, sometimes all you need is woman.
Yeah. Hey,
Selection,
it's true. Sometimes all you need is woman.
You may lie in front of your boys, you got
Word.
Yeah, word.
Because it's not women dogging other, it's not men dogging women, it's women dogging other women.
True.
Anti-guys generally. And so it becomes a character thing where they attack your core, the center of who you are, who you're like in trying to emphasize your meaninglessness, your uselessness. If you think about your strength, and even for the strongest women, there's a male figure somewhere. We love our mothers nurtured us, but trust and believe there's a man who made you strong. There's a man. Will not, which is why guys these days don't know how to date girls, because our fathers were boys once and they raised girls immune to that kind of boy.
Sorry.
So now your boy is still being raised with that boy.
There's three of us here. What did you say? Come again.
Where's the glitch? Where's the glitch? Because even with like there's the male, whatever sense of that I can take on the world you have, right? Your mother nurtures you, she makes things better, auntie. But your father teaches you to attack the world. A certain way. So fathers don't necessarily be biological. There's a lot of people with biological fathers, but there's a male figure in your life. Someone, somewhere, murume. It could be God. Right? Because remember, well, if you're a Christian and you believe we're made in his image, aren't you? Male and female, he created them. Perhaps the emphasis on male doesn't mean God is a male in the men sense, like we see men walking on earth. It could be that there's a void in masculine energy.
Oh, that's kind of profound.
And the world needs fathers.
I get that. It's not that God is a dude, but it's like that drive that dude would give you. I kind of get that.
The Bible will describe him as like with maternal natures as well.
Yes, like, exactly. Yeah.
Wow. We know mothers love. I'm naturally meant to nurture. So when people talk about my bullies don't nurture people, no. Everyone nurtures. What we're saying is, vulnerability. What do you do with it? That's what differentiates someone who knows how to use it for good and someone who becomes a bully. But we know.
We now need a part 2. We will
part
not
3.
finish
This is part 2. We now need part 3.
Yes, we now need part. No.
You know what? We're just gonna be doing mental health all the time because it's so broad, man.
Please, can you bring it down to me? Please send it to me, guys. Look.
Okay. Let's Chris Ndogumbro utaure statement yako ngonopedzisa and then we close.
And then we're done.
Okay.
Yeah, because
Thank you. I know, because I want to just say this. This is actually what I want to say about, because I was like, we've been at this for about an hour and something. What I want to say is that, guys, I feel like we strongly need a part 3 now that talks about the effects of all these things, talking about the suicide that happens, how it affects the youngster when he grows up. I know that Dylan as was saying, and then we find solutions for these guys to actually, build to be better human beings at the end of the day. So that's all I wanted to say. You can take it back and go. It's okay.
For us guys, we're still on the journey, bro.
I guess the way I could close it, is, again, I'm only one therapist, and I sincerely believe in my approach, and I'm sure other therapists are sincere too. So you don't have to take what I say as gospel, but if it works, all I'm saying is test it out. If it works, maybe I'm onto something, right? The world is naturally, it's wild, it's violent. The way you know the world is violent, in none of that time, don't tell me how comfortable you are. Tell me if you're feeling peaceful, auntie. Because there's something natural about the wildness of nature. And our mothers comfort us from the injuries we experience, but our fathers teach us to attack it. Now, I'm not saying mothers can't teach you, no, but there is something to be said for how even the way your biology and your hormonal makeup alone will address it. You're not going to do it sometimes. You think 2-3 times.
True.
For a reason.
Yeah.
That in itself is letting you know there's a dynamic here that's different, and both parents are useful, which is why I'm like that household where both the mom and dad are present is one of the best, most functional types. You may not have the best mom and dad, but you have a mom and dad.
Yeah, you should cherish that.
Auntie guy, you're like you might actually have better odds than the one with one or the other. And I'm not saying obviously don't take to extremes. And if you're taking to extremes, it means you're also lying to yourself, because you know there's the truth somewhere, and the truth is not an extreme. People tend to run to extremes to hide from the truth. The truth is most parents are pretty average. And they got good and bad elements.
Yeah.
So when you have both of them present, or at least a figure that can take in that role, you probably come out much more well adjusted, even if it wasn't good, because there was that nice tension of back and forth, and you found your middle within the tension.
Yeah.
And then it's your job to then grow from there. But bullying is, again, it's intentional. It's, if you're a bully, like, it's intentional. There's a repeated aspect to it. Anybody and everybody can be a bully, and in some ways, if you think of it, you probably are. To something or someone somewhere, you're a bully.
True.
You may have munanoku bully in a way you don't like, but if you stop and think and were to save on this world, whoever experienced it, tafads, you have people raising their hands saying, "Oh, you're a bully to me," and sometimes it's your parents who tell you you're the bully. Maybe emotionally manipulated. From how is it violent? From it's your words, it's your demeanor, it's your behavior. But I think the first step, maybe to close off this conversation, is admitting that all of us have a tendency to bully and be bullied. Antiga. And then just the 2 points where know when someone is more dangerous than you, and raise children people actually like. Not because you are not dated, but people are very adjusted that know how to interact with other people well.
Yeah.
Wow.
Dog,
Wow.
Hey.
She killed it. She killed it.
Ladies
guys.
and
She
gentlemen,
killed it.
that's Doc Ngonidzashe Mpofu.
Oh yeah, we're gonna put
Guys.
socials, right? Ngoni, we can share your socials, Auntie. Everything.
Like for my company. I'm so private.
yes.
I feel like there, yeah, but I'll give you something. Yeah.
Private, dude, my brothers with voices.
I'm so
Forget about
private.
that.
I'm just going to say.
But
We
thank
do
you very
research.
much, though. Thank
Yo,
you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much
Thank
for your
you
time.
so
We really
much.
do appreciate.
Appreciate
Thank
you.
you for having
appreciate.
me. I appreciate
We
it.
really appreciate. From us, thank you very much, guys. Batsy, Chris, please say your goodbyes.
Boom. Peace out, guys.
Until next time.
Cheers.
Peace.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for spending your time with us today. We really appreciate it. We still want your feedback. Put your comment below. Inbox us. And hey guys, that's it. Please continue to like our page on Facebook, subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and also follow us on Instagram. See you guys next week. Same time, same place. Dino Mike.